Rastafari, ever living, one God. In 1968, a young Jamaican girl with very middle-class European attitudes and ambitions became the first black person to be employed as a reporter-interviewer on British television. She immediately became the focus of a great deal of attention and controversy, not just because of her job, but especially because she was black. Her name was Barbara Blake, and I was that girl, now grown into Makeda Lee, a woman living and worshipping in the name of Rastafari, a religion, a political philosophy, and a cultural expression. Having lived the last 10 years in my country of birth, Jamaica, I am now in Britain with an opportunity to see and comment on how things have changed, if at all, and perhaps an opportunity to build a bridge of greater understanding between black and white, a bridge that will take us forward to the fulfillment of God's purpose for man, which I believe is mankind's fulfillment of its full God potential. This then is a highly personal opinion. In 1972, an assignment to promote The Harder They Come started my journey into Rastafari. This scene was the most stunning act of freedom from the bonds of European culture and lifestyle, a window into a racial, cultural, and political consciousness which seemed so exactly right for I.
Sitting here in limbo, but I know it won't be long. Sitting here in limbo, like a bird without a song. Well, they're putting up resistance, but I know that my faith will lead me on.
I returned to Jamaica, worked for the Government Media and Culture Services, organized a film festival, wrote articles on black history, culture, and spirituality, and embraced the Rastafari religion. Rastafari is a movement based on the recognition of Africa as the central origin of black people and the world, and the place to which descendants of slavery should return. It is a God consciousness inspired by the life of Emperor Haile Selassie, King of Kings, elect of God, conquering Lion of the tribe of Judah, a worldwide religion which sees God and Christ as black, which teaches that peace and love are the duty of every human being. The Bible is our guide, our prophet is Marcus Garvey, and our psalmist, reggae artist Bob Marley.
When I go down, I hit it loud.
Returning to England with a Rastafari consciousness has been very interesting. England hasn't changed much. The place is still clean, prosperous, and peaceful on the surface. But though I expected to find that racial harmony had improved in my absence, I found that black and white attitudes are still polarized on the issues of race.
Lord, I heard a cry. Because of you and
My first visit was to an old friend, Tessa Topolsky, daughter of the famous artist Felix. I remember their house as a place where new political and cultural thought was actively discussed in the swinging 60s. But despite her embrace of radical political thought and action, Tessa is typical of many who know little about the basic philosophy of Rastafari.
Barbara, I've known you, I'm still calling you Barbara, as I've known you for about 10 years, but you've asked me to call you Makeda. I'll keep on forgetting. It's habit, and one should change one's habit, so I'll try for Makeda. And as I said, I've known you for 10 years, and you started off as being nice girl with her white boyfriends on the television, and then there was a phase when you got into black power, and it was sort of starting to be political, and then I lost you when you went to Jamaica. This is the first time I've seen you back again. How did it happen, and how come you're now a Rasta?
I'm very much Frantz Fanon's black faces, white masks. You know, we of the colonies start out with a very European attitude, especially those of us with a middle-class upbringing, and I was just very much part of that.
Yeah.
I had all those traditional outlooks. But the world has changed, the world has grown, and the black consciousness has increased in the world. And where it started, just at the time that you knew me getting into that black power phase, I've grown. I've grown also in an environment where the most energetic black thought is taking place, and that is among Rastafari, influenced by Garvey, Nkrumah, all the black thinkers. It's been concentrated in Jamaica and in Rastafari.
Rasta as opposed to political.
Rastafari is political. You see, I know you don't see it as political.
There are a lot of blacks who are political and not Rasta.
Fair enough, but we not only have political, we have spiritual base as well. And I've simply grown along that path. I've questioned and challenged every Rastafari stand, every Rastafari thought, and come to accept it for myself as an active way of pursuing black political, economic, and spiritual goals.
You say you want to opt out of European white ways of change because it's redundant, it's irrelevant to you, and any kind of change, whether it's a way for revolution or socialism or whatever. What happened then in Grenada with Bishop and his change and his revolution, because he's having a hard time with America? I mean, are you involved with him or not there?
We see socialism as a very good method of analysis of the present world situation, socialism, communism. The point is that we tried for 10 years in Jamaica to realize it, and there we discovered its inappropriateness for black people because it does not allow race consciousness, and that is where the people are at. In Grenada, in fact, a lot of Rastafari fought along with Bishop, carried guns to make the revolution be successful. In fact, they were in the vanguard of the revolution. But now reports coming out of Grenada say that Rastafari is being consistently suppressed. Well, whether or not Mr. Bishop will have any more success in retaining Grenada as a socialist example than Michael Manley had in Jamaica is open to question for the same reasons, or partly the same reasons that Manley's experiment failed, which is socialism is so in opposition to the Western systems under whose influence we fall, that the Western systems will do everything they can to annihilate socialist experiments. This is another reason why we do not see socialism as a permanent way of structuring our society. We speak about communalism, which goes one step further. We speak of Pan-Africanism, which George Padmore said achieved all the aims of communism, but more, in fact, because it dealt specifically with the black experience.
What I also particularly wanted to ask you, you are for repatriation. Where would you go? There's
already a grant of 500,000 acres of land that belongs to black people in the diaspora. It was given by the Emperor Selassie at the end of the Italian War to the Ethiopian World Federation for the settlement of all black people who supported Ethiopia in that war. So there is already that land there, and it is already being settled. We will be an international body united by the fact that we are black, and any black person who considers themselves part of that unity will step forward. And when we're talking of skilled, high intellectual and physical beings.
What about the people who aren't skilled or higher intellectuals?
Welcome equally. We need agriculture. We need those people whose skills probably are limited only to knowing how to plant food and grow it. They probably can't read or write. But that's a high skill, to know how to plant food and make it flourish. We have the agronomists, we have the educationalists, we have the journalists, we have the highest minds of our race at the moment. The majority of Rastafari now spreads across the entire spectrum of all people, not just in Jamaica, in the world. You have white-skinned Rastas, you have brown, you have Chinese, you have Indian, you have working class, middle class, upper class.
So so they can combine all the skills in order to
absolutely. You see,
doctors,
absolutely. That's who are called called the intellectual Rasta. The head of the mental institution in Jamaica is a Rastafari. He is the best they have ever had, Dr. Freddie Hickling.
Barbara, isn't it rather copping up from society what you're doing anyway, whether it's in England or not, because society needs changing, and we're also black and white have to work and live together?
It's kind of a very arrogant white assumption that the only method that one can work is the European way. We see very clearly a different method of achieving our goals. I think we've tried for a very long time to do it the European way and been guided by Europeans. We find that the business of confronting the system, struggle, armed aggression, these things will never work. We prefer the peaceful war, the Melchizedek war of peace and love.
And does that help when, for instance, the part of your beliefs is using the weed? And does that help with your peacefulness?
Absolutely.
Just sort of neutralizing you down?
Absolutely. It enables us to retain a position of peace and love. But let me tell you something about herb. Whether we ever smoke another drop again or not, the herb has been proved effective in the treatment of cancer. It's legal in 21 American states for the treatment of cancer and glaucoma. It can be used to produce rope, cotton, paper for printing money, oil, resin. It has multitudinous purposes that if we were to plant it and use it never to smoke another drop, we could fuel our economy on that alone. You know, so the religious aspect of the use of the herb is not something that you will comprehend. I say when I use the herb, it enables me to have greater communion with my God. And this is the point. The herb is our sacrament. I know it's something you cannot understand, but this is just its fact.
If one's told something, one can try to perceive or understand.
But I think a lot of white people do really understand the benefits of the herb. Anton Phillips came to Britain in 1964, studied drama, and has exercised his talent in numerous productions on stage as well as on TV. Yet he's now disillusioned with Britain and wants to migrate. Why?
When I entered this business, even understanding the difficulties that there are in theatre, it was with the firm belief that you can make it in the business, make it to the top. And I don't think anyone goes into theatre honestly without thinking that one day there'll be a star, if you wish. And I don't think that's going to happen. Not to me, not in Britain. I don't think it will happen to any black actor or any black artist in this country. I mean, there might be a limited amount of success. I've had a limited amount of success. But I will never become a big star in this country.
Why do you think this is?
Well, the easy thing is that, or the easy answer, is that this country really doesn't accept the fact that the black people in this country have a contribution to make to the society. Therefore, they will not give them the opportunity, especially in something as upfront and showy as show business, unless you're a singer or a dancer, to rise to that top. I mean, I've had a fair amount of exposure on television and on stage, good reviews for what they count. But really, I mean, I'm no further on the road now than I was 5 years ago. In terms of what I have actually achieved as an actor, it compares well with any actor, black or